Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Students, today we will talk again about strategic marketing planning under strategic marketing management in lecture number 6. The last lecture we have seen two things in strategic marketing planning, and that is what is basic marketing plan, and then how we can analyze the customer companies and the competitors and industry as a whole. In today's lecture, we will go further into that planning and we'll talk about these two objectives, how to make choices between alternative course of actions and evaluation of critical marketing concepts for the organization. For this purpose, we will again use the reading of for the basics of strategic marketing planning. We will start talking about today from change forces analysis. We have talked till table number 4 in the last lecture, and uh, from today's in today's lecture we will start talking from table number 5. In table number 5 we are again given a scale, and that is for the assessment of external situation faced by the firm. So let's go to table number 5 at the end of this particular reading, and this is table number 5, and this is for competitive forces checklist. So what we want to analyze in this is what sort of competitive forces are there in a market, and under that competitive forces, how much threat is faced by the companies. If the opportunities are less threatening, that means fewer opportunities are available. And if more threatening, then that means more opportunities are available. So, first of all, we will talk about changes in buyer's demand, and that is what buyer want and they need. And to answer that thing, we will have to consider the changes in taste, lifestyle, family, income preferences, and extra. Collectively, we will answer that how much these changes will occur. If we list the key changes, that is like little changes in these, it will fall somewhere here. If there we are expecting that much of these things are changing, then we will label it somewhere with 5. That means a lot of changes are taking place in just customers' needs and wants. Secondly, we have to talk about changes in long-term market growth rate, and we will answer that about how many changes in industry growth, population growth, product and services, attractiveness to customer, and market saturation. All these factors communicate the changes in market growth rate. If there are little changes, that means it's less threatening. But if we are saying that a lot of changes will occur, that means more threats are available to the organization in terms of long-term market growth rate. Then we will move on to the changes in product and marketing innovations. That means if we are doing a lot of changes in market innovation, that means a lot of changes are occurring, and with those changes we have to list how many changes are occurring. We will list like 1, 2, and 3 changes which are occurring or if less changes are occurring, we will list it here. If more changes, more threatening. If less changes, then it means less threatening according to this scale. Number fourth is technological change and speed at which it spreads. Again, we will talk about all these changes in terms of little changes or much changes. If we think that these changes are occurring in our industry, we will list which changes are occurring. On point fifth, we will move on to government regulation and policy changes, and we will try to answer how much environment have changed according to regulation, food securities, industry standards, extra by regulatory influence of the government policy. And according to our own industry, we will label whether they are less changes or a lot of changes. And sixth, changes in uncertainty and business risk. And we consider changes in business liability, volatility, market's ability to forecast effectively. And that is if business liability, volatility, and forecast is changing a lot or is changing much. Students, you must remember that if we talk about this region, much changes, that means a lot of things are changing in our industry. And change means more opportunities. If we are considering little changes, that means either the product is moving on maturity to decline stage or the product is stagnant. That means nothing is available for the organization to grow, change, or innovate. On seventh number, we talk about major changes in economy. And these changes are according to the skill of laborers, investment, interest rate, uh, people's income level, choices, any economic change that can occur in the market. We will analyze that and list the major changes which are occurring. In last, we will consider globalized scenario for the industry. All other seven parts was related to only one region or country. But when we move on to point 8, that means import export, international firms, whether the same firms are innovating internationally or not, or what are the conditions elsewhere. An idea for this point is that even though outside the country changes may not affect the industry a lot in short terms, but in long terms, these are the things which an industry adopts for its future growth. So we will list these changes as well. After completion of this table, we will move on to table number 6, that is self-analysis checklist to assess strength and weakness. As we have talked earlier that our analysis will be based on how things work in the market externally and inside the organization. And we were talking about self-analysis component. So after the completion of table number 5, we will move on self-analysis components. And this self-analysis component means internal strength of your organization as well as weaknesses. And these organizational capabilities will talk about how strategic marketing can be managed inside the organization. To do that, we will use the most widely used technique, that is SWOT analysis. And in SWOT analysis, we will talk about strength, that is internal to an organization and gives an important capability to organization, and weakness, that is again internal but is a disadvantage to the company. To do this, as we have seen earlier on, we will move on to SWOT analysis. And SWOT analysis format is given in table number 6. We will complete this thing exactly as we have completed the other tables in this reading. And by looking at the questions, we will try to answer that thing. Theory of SWOT analysis is based on strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. Strength and weaknesses are internal to the organization, and opportunities and threats are external to the organization. The SWOT analysis gives us two things, and that is either competitive advantage or disadvantage for the company, and it also elaborates the areas in which your strengths and weaknesses are consolidated. Secondly, it gives us the prioritization of a firm's opportunities and threats. That means out of available threats or opportunities, which is most threatening and which is less threatening. So to do SWOT analysis, we will do few things, and those few things are listed in these 4 steps. First of all, we will check the competitive advantage and change analysis to look for opportunities and threats. Secondly, we will do a self-analysis of a firm, that what are your strengths and weaknesses in marketing, production, personal information system, finances, management, leadership, organizational resources, or any other thing that are internal to our organization. For example, for few organizations, it's like supply chain management. After doing step 1 and 2, we will move on to the competitive disadvantage and competitive advantage of the firm, in which firm can get something or lose something. Then we will prioritize the opportunities and threat in a descending list, starting from most eminent threat at the top and least threat at the bottom. So let's go and try to fill table number 6 for SWOT analysis. So by looking at table number 6, we can see that it's about the resources and whether they are the weakness or strength. Remember, the middle choice 3 is, it's neither a weakness nor a threat, is sort of a neutral thing. The more you move to 1, that is more weakness. The more you move to 5, that is more strength. The resources inside the organizations are divided into different categories. As we have talked earlier on, These are marketing resources, financial resources, human resources, operational production resources, management leadership resources, organizational resources, and informational resources. All these resources exist with the organization. Now let's see how we can judge those resources. And that is based on the honest assessment about the company. First question is customer satisfaction with the product or service. If that is bad, it's weakness. If it is good, it's strength. Then we have to judge customer competition, in-depth knowledge of product service line, product service quality, advertising and promotional activities, product service pricing, and facility methods used to sell customers. Now, product to product and industry to industry, you will have to gain in-depth knowledge of the product before answering these individual questions. There exists a problem if you ask the organization, they often rate themselves more than actual. And if you ask the competitors, they often recognize less than actual. So the better thing would be that you take an independent assessment of all these questions. Financial resources are better to judge because financial annual financial statements are available for different companies, and from there you can check these vital signs of financial health. That is, those are operating profits, cash flows, return on investment or ROI, return on equity ROE, asset management, debt to equity ratio, access to new or outside funds, customer credit, and supplier credit. This information is available in financial books, and they can be compared with the results of last year's financial statement. Turning towards human resource, we can also judge how human resources are tackled and how effectively they are utilized. We can talk about human resource in terms of a number of people working together in the organization, quality of human resource, personal plans, that means the human resource development or HRD, job designs and description of human resource, performance standards, training programs, good morale, evidence, absenteeism, turnerism, all these things show interest of human resource towards its work. Promotion, performance and satisfaction, competitive pay, competitive fringe benefits, use of terms, and work ethics. They can be judged by asking the human resource department or looking at different evidence like JDs or other things. Next assessment would be about the operations and production resources. And that means again, if you go with one, that is weak. If you go with five, that is strong. And in that operation and production resources, we talk about quality of facilities for customers, capacities of facilities, up-to-date appropriate technology, efficient and effective physical plant, and efficient workflow. We also consider inventory control, purchasing practices, and production practices according to the efficiencies managed inside the plant. After operation management, we talk about leadership inside the organization. That means we are talking about top level management, efficient management style, timely decision making, efficient delegation of tasks, effective participation, effective risk taking, and effective leadership. All these things are subjective to the judgment of organization, but this judgment can be done better if properly that organization is studied. Our sixth point in the list is organizational resources, and we will talk about the quality and efficiencies of those resources. These resources include people, equipment, money, or 3M, man, material, and machine. Appropriate mix of resources is carried out or not. One means that it's not carried out properly, and five means that it's carried out properly. Placement of resources to do the job, interdepartmental communications, reporting, relationships, public image, very important thing. And in last, organizational culture according to productivity, honesty, dispute handling, and tolerance of change. All these things again will be measured against this Likert scale. Then we talk about the last or in the resources, and that is information resources. These information resources also talk about, also judge the knowledge inside the organization. These information resources are according to different departments, and that are financial cost or accounting systems, whether they are weak or strong in the organization. Planning systems, planning system for external analysis, control systems, information systems about the technology use, like computers are available, or if company adopt new technology, whether people can get the information about those things or not. Efficient information for strategic decision making, and effective information for operation decision making. Will judge that all these information systems are either weak or strong. After completion of this thing, this table number 6, we move on to the next table, and that is table number 7. Table number 7 provides us with a worksheet about 5 most important opportunities and threats that the study company is facing. And that is identified from the last part, that is table number 3, 4, and 5. And after completion of this table, we also have to give the evidence to support why you consider these things as a better opportunities or a greater threat. Let's move on to table number 7. And table number 7 is about opportunities and threat analysis. So we only have to list 3 opportunities and 3 threats. And these 3 opportunities and threats should be most to the organization. And why they are considered as most should be given as evidence. For example, if younger population is growing, and that is an evidence, that is an opportunities, because company wants to develop new product according to the opportunity of youth population available. After completion of this table number 7, we move on to table number 8. And table number 8 is strength and weaknesses. As opportunities and threats in table number 7 were internal, these strengths and weakness are external to the organization. We will follow the same fashion and list only 3 most relevant strengths and 3 most relevant weaknesses according to the evidence why we consider this thing as strength or weakness for the company. When we reach table number 8, most of our analysis is done, and we have gathered the evidence how and what company is doing. After table number 7, we will try to put this detail in terms of whether we are growing or going down in the market. And we will use the same data to complete table number 9, 10. Table number 9 is again with a series of questions that is about the use of information in earlier tables, that is 4, 5, 6, and 7. We have completed strength and weakness, opportunities and threat in table number 7 and 8. We will use the same information to complete table number 9. And the table number 9 will tell us about putting these things together. That is SWOT analysis. How do we do it? The information gathered in table number 7 and table number 8 according to different ranks, we will use to answer these things. Where do your company strength and opportunities reinforce each other? That is strengths from external analysis and opportunities from internal analysis. That means if they are reinforcing each other, then we are having a good SO strategy. That is, which strength we can use to encash the available opportunity. Similarly, we will compare weakness with threats, and that is which weakness can give you more in terms of threat, and that is combating the available threat against the firm. The first question was related to the suggestion of competitive advantage. The second question is related to the competitive disadvantage. So whatever your company does lies between competitive advantage and competitive disadvantage. And after looking at competitive advantage and disadvantage, we move on to the key success factors that a company must address for a better future in the competition. Question number 4 is about vision, mission, and goal. Vision, mission, goals, and objectives, and the assessment of whether these are adequate or needs to change according to the current analysis of competitive advantage and competitive disadvantage. Our last question in table number 9 is about the current strategy of the company and whether that is working fine or it needs to be changed. After completing these 5 questions, there is a fair idea of what a company is doing and how much it needs to change strategically in coming years. Till table number 9, our SWOT analysis are complete and we are in a position to understand how much and what company is doing, how much it can gain or how much it can lose by adopting the current strategy. After completing the SWOT analysis, our next task is about the self-analysis. Our next task is about strategic posture of the components. And that is how much these strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats can give us in long term. These things can create a bridge between the intentions and objectives of the company and their implementation. They can also give a fair idea about the demands and the needs of the customer to implement the plan. And they can also give you the strategic combinations in terms of SO strategy, OT strategy, and SW strategy. That how you can do different things to outshine the competition.